One of my suppliers from my Starbucks days had recently sold his business and he wanted to start another one. He'd been in Australia and he was inspired by the pies that he'd eaten on his travels. He had a hunch that there was perhaps a gap in the market for really good pie here in the UK. And the more we looked at the market, the more we realised that the traditional great British pie had been eroded by mass production, poor quality ingredients, and had seen very little development. This was in total contrast to other categories, where brands like Innocent, Kettle Chips, Goo, Green and Blacks were raising the bar, being innovative and developing a whole new tier, commanding a different price point, higher than that of the supermarket-owned label. So I developed some pies in my kitchen at home and we took them along for a trade show. We were hugely encouraged by the response. And in particular, Eat Cafe. At the time, they had about 50 cafes, and they said that if we could make them, they would stock them. So we did a bit of a fag packet costing. And 3 of us put about 25k into a pot. We built a small commercial kitchen. In the end, it actually cost us double that, but we did get started, and in 2003 we sold our first batch of pies to Eat. It seemed to go well at first, and we quickly grew, and the turnover in the first year grew to about $250,000. And it was around this time that I got married to my husband James, and we returned from our honeymoon. We realised that actually, although turnover was growing, the business was actually losing about £4,000 a week. So we decided that we either needed to get out or to go in deeper. And we went for the latter. We sold our home. We bought out the other shareholder. James left his career in architecture to join me. And what followed was 3 years of sheer blood, sweat and tears, basically. We learned our trade, making and supplying pies to what we would call food service customers, so to Eat, to local delis, local gastropubs and farm shops. But what that did was it gave us a much better idea of costs, the cost of ingredients, distribution, and importantly, profit. But what we really wanted was to develop a brand for our pies, and for our pies to be in people's homes, to be eaten in people's homes up and down the country. We wanted our brand to be different. We wanted it to be different from the other brands, and not just small premium. We wanted it to be not associated with kind of beer and football, but to be feminine, because we wanted to be in the supermarkets, and most often it's the women that are kind of doing the shopping for the family. So we wanted our pies to feel like they had a sort of feminine touch and were made by cooks and not butchers. And we weren't afraid of using sort of pink on our boxes and Charlie and the Chocolate Factory style drawings, which really communicated our handmade values. And the brand was ready in sort of September 2006, it coincided with an opportunity to present to the directors of Sainsbury's. Sainsbury's had just launched a scheme called the Supply Something New scheme, and they were looking for small local suppliers who could supply their supermarkets. We were shortlisted and eventually selected. And we were given 3 months to technically meet their standards, which involved expanding our team, which was me, James, and a few cooks, to include a technical manager, a production manager, a lorry driver. We bought a big Arctic lorry that could deliver in pallets into the Sainsbury's depots. And on Valentine's Day 2007, we got our first Higgidy branded pie onto the shelves of Sainsbury's. And we now have about 12 branded lines in Sainsbury's, and we supply most of the other major multiples. And this year we'll turn over about 14 million, and we have about 180 employees.